So welcome, I'm Hala, this is Hala. You all know her if you are not fawning in front of her. I work in the Institute of Non-Violence. Karen, do you want to come and sit up? There's a seat here, there's a seat here, there's a seat there. Unless
Oh, thanks for including me.
So that's been a huge morning. It's really exciting to have you with us after that. Let's start by just bringing ourselves into the room. I invite you all to look behind you, and sorry for the people on the camera, but we've got some beautiful props that we can just take a moment to take in behind us. So we've got the Australian flag, the Victorian flag, the Torres Strait Islander flag, and the Aboriginal flag behind us. So you might find nourishment from those images. And then we've got some beautiful gum trees here that we can see, and some plane trees as well, some European trees. And they're all part of our community where we are. So let's just take a moment to look at those, and then I invite you to turn back in, and if you're comfortable to close your eyes. Let's just take a moment all here together. We're on Wurundjeri country. Let's connect to that space through the concrete pillars of this building all the way down deep into the earth, which is connected to the roots of those trees and to the buildings that the flagpoles stand on. Let's take a moment to think about if we could capture some of the wisdom of the elders past and present and emerging from the Wurundjeri people and from all First Nations people here in Australia and around the world. One of the questions we're asked is, what kind of ancestors do we want to be? Let's take a moment to connect with that question in our bodies here right now. To notice our breath, to notice our feet on the ground, our butts on the chair, our backs, our shoulders, notice your solar plexus, your hands, all the way up your arms, the throat and your voice box. The ears, nose, your eyes and your eyelids. Your entire being and your place in this world right now. Take 3 more deep breaths, and then when you're ready, open your eyes and connect with the other people in the room. So nice to see you all. So Hala and I have lots of things we could talk about. But the first question we just wanted to, the first question we have for you all is just to hear something from you about what resonated with you from the session before. So we can tell you why we're here talking about gender, and we know that there are other things that we want to talk about other than gender. But why are you talking about gender? What from this morning has come away from you? And just to make it easy, given we do have a limited time, start at the side and go around. So I'll let you introduce yourself and then just a little thought about what's sitting with you.
Hi. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I was just on. I feel like every time you grab a microphone, you have to say that. Hi, my name's Craig. I have a couple of roles, but I was sitting there listening this morning, and I did a general audit of the power in my organisation. And came up with the biggest answer. So,
I'm Cynthia, and I sadly missed the first discussion with Dr. Newkind, and I was there in time for that panel conversation. It was so for many things, but I've come away with just really seeing the groundedness around women's equality is more than just fertility and reproduction. I could just, it's so time, and I'm so delighted. I am so thrilled.
Hi everyone, I'm Vivian. Gosh, I don't really know where to begin. I feel like there was so much that came out of the conversations this morning. I think one thing that stuck with me was probably what you said about being at those sessions and realizing that actually feeling like you were comfortable, but then realizing that there was actually so much more work to do, and men using feminine derogatory, or using that as a way of expressing derogatory statements was something that really hit home with me as a mother as well. I'm thinking, how do we reverse that and make sure that, you know, we're not perpetuating that? So I'm sort of sitting with a lot of that, but that was what really, I think,
Hi everyone. Nice to see you. My name is Emily. Unfortunately, I wasn't at either of the sessions this morning. Yeah, I guess I just get to this space and I haven't dived into a whole lot of it. I just feel a bit uncomfortable about it. So, yeah. Yeah, see what the session is to hold. Thanks.
I am Cardi B. I'm with the Institute of Wales. I'm a research assistant there. And I guess what resonated with me was the kind of spoken about the intervention that's coming in advice to Victoria only, and why it's not happening at a federal level and a national level. My name is Abdelnour. I work on Office of Indigenous Education and Engagement on the team, and I would like to engage more on learning to groups-based coordination where I work in WA. I'm somebody to a sponsor for RIT, so I've been running in and out of conferences with panels where I can get in. So I didn't actually choose to come to this one this morning, but on the way into work, I was listening to the radio, and yet again, I'm listening to a part of federal government policies that they're putting in place, and that it's in the air to move among voice who's talking to us all the time about the northern policies that are taking place in Australia and an increasing level of concern about much.
Hey, I'm Ruth Fish. I think something that really struck with me this morning was this idea of reclaiming your power. I think because the past 2 years have been a really tough time for me, and I feel like my voice has shrunk in that time, and so I'd like to find it again.
Hi, I'm Jess. I just really want to learn and understand more about my space in society. I grew up with very positive male roles and some very negative female roles. And as I got older, that kind of flipped. So, yeah, I just better understanding my space in the world. That's a bit more, where my partner fits people that as well. So I don't have that deep understanding that I probably should at this stage. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Michelle. One of the greatest learnings from Hala now is I'm about to enter workforce and being able to view everyday situations through a gender lens is now as well, especially since I don't really have those notions as of yet because I haven't entered the workforce. I want to see everything from a fresher perspective and a different perspective. I don't want to conform.
Nice.
Don't conform.
Welcome everyone. My name is Joanne. I am also Blue's lady mum. I am here with One Red Step, with Stacey, a social change consultancy work that we do together. For me, what's sitting in my head is the rage at how much longer we will have to wait if we leave the change work to white women to do alone, and just how much that sharing power and claiming power is actually everybody needs to do both, no matter what identities we hold. I just thought that that was a really important reminder for the commissioner, and I loved that. I feel like I saw the change needed in action in this little capsule of a moment, and it was really, really inspiring. I'm glad to be there, sitting and witnessing it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nicola. Much like Vivian, I think you're talking about women's group and the derogatory comments that just kind of floored me. I don't know, it's something I've thought about previously, but just in the way you said it, it really got me. I'm also a mother, so I'm here to listen and learn, so I can be a better role model for my children.
Hello, my name is Christina. I'm really here to set a lesson and understanding of power and identity and sort of look more towards intersectionality as a way that I move forward in my own studies and future work and just the way that I set my community as well. So.
My name is Stacey. Love and joy here to bring more. I do lots of work with different things, loads of work with different quality and policy next women. Very abstracted. So I'm analytical, we do lots of analytical work, we talk about numbers, we talk about systems, we talk about legislation, I do lots of that work. I was reminded today of the Paris story, and I bet you that it can be as an Eleanor, and it can be so much more powerful, the Paris story and narrative, as opposed to the
Cameron. One of the things I'm doing at the moment is via our watch, ways of getting in more engaged in gender equality and climate prevention work. And the reason I'm this workshop and the ones that run up that was, the discussion this morning was great in a lot of ways, but there was too much of a focus on how can we fix a broken system. It's also a very colonial system, so our legislation, our institutions, our politics, our constitution, it's all white, colonial. And I appreciated some of the very diplomatic directions we were taking in discussions to challenge that a little. So I look forward to that. And we get enough of Hala. I'm lucky enough to be trained by Hala in behaviour change. So really resonated with her saying.
Thank you. It's got too much compliment. Thank you.
Well, and yeah, definitely resonate what you said about all we need to do with behaviour change. I'm lucky I work in maybe the opposite way. It's an entirely feminist organisation, but it is a white organisation. So we're interested in those sorts of discussions that might happen today.
Hello, I'm Laura. Lovely to be here. I'm actually having a bit of having a bit of trouble speaking up. So something that resonated from that session, something that was really uncomfortable. Okay, so I had a bit of a feeling, and I was like, And I want to be a bit diplomatic about how I say this, but there was one particular speaker who I felt a bit, I struggled to listen to. I felt that she was really.
I guess we were telling you I'm okay.
Well, it was like I felt two very genuine voices that spoke from being a woman. One that was a bit constrained, and that particular person holds a very quite a powerful position. I thought, oh, here's something that I struggle with. Here's a woman in power, that's had years of experience beyond me, life experience, but there was something just, I'm not trying to analyse, I'm not going to psychoanalyse why, but I just felt that there was something that, I'm like, here's the problem. She's in this position of power, but she's not getting it, she's not recognising something. And I didn't know, and I'm like, this is not a criticism of work, maybe there's lots of constraints. We're in this structure, this power structure, so it can be hard. And so then I just said, well, what does that mean for me as a woman? What does it mean for my experience, who I am, race and cultural work? And when you said all men need to do men behaviour change, I'm like, well, not all men. I think all of us women need to do it too, and I need to do it big time. And I'll stop there because otherwise now I've got my.
Great workshop.
It was really great. Thank you.
Oh, I can just quickly introduce myself. So my name is Newkind, and I'm here to support the Institute of Nonviolence and Video Operations side. And still learning a lot from Hala. And it's a pleasure to be here doing some photos and videos to support the council back in Sydney.
Thank you. And the slides.
Sure, yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm here volunteering, supporting the space, making sure all the pieces fall into place. But this is definitely a topic that I'm really fascinated by and feel there's a lot of importance. I see a bunch of women here and only a couple men, and I see that there's a real big shift that needs to happen to really bring men into this kind of conversation. And I'm not sure necessarily what that is going to take, but for myself, I'm glad to be able to be in a room and hear the conversation and listen and be a witness to whatever is emerging and bring some of that out with me. So that's what I'm here for.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mary. I think from this morning, I think one of the things that really struck me was that there's no men up there on the panel. And I'd really like to see that. Obviously, there's men that are working in this space, which is also really respected. I work in this space myself, so I'm working with men who choose to use violence. So this is one of my passions, and the title of this workshop was "Why Are We Still Talking About Gender Equality?" I just think, yeah, that's just lovely for me. So thank you. Really amazing the input that everyone's had so far too. I just really respect everybody's press for being here. Awesome. Hi everyone, my name is Sonia. I'm here because I'm just kind of tired of battle, whether it's in work or personal relationships or within myself, realising conditioning in me and how that plays out in my life. And I became a mother to a boy a few years ago, and that was a huge shift for me in in a number of ways. How am I going to model myself to my son? How do I want him to grow up to perceive women? But also noticing the shift of how society perceives a maiden versus mother, and that very big change in expectations and role and visibility or invisibility. So yeah, all of that. And in order to really understand it, I think I'm really interested in understanding or have been kind of delving into how we got here over the past few thousand years. And so this topic, why we're still talking about gender, yes, after thousands of years of this happening, we're still talking about it. So I'm just really interested to hear.
The question is the answer. Thank you. And I'm mindful, we don't even know how much time we've got. Really, what time do we need to go back? Okay.
So
is this how much time we've got left?
If we're stopping at 12, yeah.
Okay, if we're stopping at 12, we might hold you hostage.
We started.
I just want to also thank you everyone for sharing, and thank you so much for that beautiful opening. I didn't actually know we had a Victorian flag until today, and I've lived here for 33 years. The question, the title came to me pretty fast, and it was actually, I deliver a lot of family violence training, gender equity training, and I think in every single room over the last few years, thousands of people probably I've trained. Somebody, at least one person, asks it more in a, like, I don't want to be here. Why are we still talking about gender? We've done that. So it's great to hear how people resonated with that and with the panel. Thank you for that. So we've got a lot of slides and we're going to blitz through a lot of it. We're probably going to, what I'd really like to do, and Hala and I have planned, so we're co-facilitating ad-lib together, and I have full faith in that actually. But I'm thinking that we focus on the interactive parts of what we put together. So there's a couple of slides. If we go, skip the next one. Thank you, slide worker. If we go to, is there a clicker? There's no clicker. No. You do it. Yeah. So what we'll do is just kind of, yes, can we go to the next one? And we don't need to, and this is roughly what we put together, but we can go to the next thing very quickly, just talk you through just what we're doing at the Institute of Nonviolence, and just to put into context how much time we have together. We're designing 2 year-long programs that we carry out with organisations around gender equity, equity and inclusion, or anti-racism. So whatever the baseline is that people would like to start with, we do that, but we take them on a journey where they're going to embrace equity and inclusion more broadly. And we work with the 4 levels of denial, so that's what those pillars are. And you might read those and resonate with bits of it. So when we're faced with adversity for ourselves as a person or social adversities, we can go into denial if it's a bit confronting and too much to deal with, or if it means we have to reflect on what role we're playing in a form of oppression, let's say. So it could be that we have no idea there's a problem. It could be that we consciously deny, we subconsciously or defend ourselves, we subconsciously defend ourselves, or we absolutely become delusional and twist every single fact and stat that we hear to stick to a narrative that suits our being in the world. So that's the 4 levels of denial that we are addressing in that 2 year program. If we go to the next slide, the 2 years goes in 4 phases. So we spend 6 months on each phase. And this is actually the model I use in men's behaviour change, because this is behaviour change and it's a culture and a paradigm shift that we're taking people through. So we work towards building insights in the beginning and making sure we all have a shared understanding, definitions. We focus on all 4 throughout, but it's like what we're really honing in on. So then we hone in on empathy. And I can say, as a woman of colour, I've fallen into the trap of saying, well, I've experienced racism, I've experienced sexism, so I don't
need to reflect that I don't actually know every single bit, and it was through hearing the stories of people who are nothing like me that I realised I don't know every story. So all of us need to build more empathy and keep listening to stories, and they will keep coming because identity always changes, society always changes, culture always changes. So I always have to keep listening to a new story, and then think about my responsibility and accountability and what role I can play as a person and as someone in an organisation, because it has an organisational focus. And the last bit is, how do we know that our organisation is actually creating safety? And that's where throughout that journey we sort of look at policies and processes as well. We look at what's going on internally. Where are the ceilings? There's so many ceilings. There's bamboo and glass and cotton and pink and red and I don't know, every ceiling under the sun. We're just going to try to undo those. So that's that. I just wanted to give you a nutshell. So today we're spending this is a snippet of some of that work that we do. So the next is the definitions. Do you want to go through really briefly the definitions?
Sure. In fact, let's click to it. And you don't need to hear our voices unless you'd like us to read it out. But let's just sit there for a few seconds. Have a look at our definition. And it's important. The reason we put that up there is because we can have lots of conversations about how we define these things, and sometimes we can get lost in the language instead of focusing on the conversation that we want to have.
Please come join us. We can make space for you on the table. Yeah, thank you.
Next slide. So I've got a story about intersectionality, because it's true, it's really helpful if we ground ourselves in stories. We can read the definitions, you can go and listen to a lot of people talk about it. Well, my story is my pandemic partner. If you've been lucky enough to have someone that you were walking the lake with every day while you were both confined to your 5 kilometres. My pandemic partner is a survivor. I don't know if she can even use that word yet, of extreme domestic abuse and trauma. And part of our walks has been going on during her, following her healing journey. I've been companioning her healing journey as it's been going on this year. And she's doing work. She wants to bring her artistic skills and talents to work, supporting domestic abuse recovery. And she reached out to another woman who she knows is also a survivor of domestic abuse, and just was chatting to her about her experience. So her experience is that she's an Indian student, so she came here 3 years ago. And when she recognised that she was in a domestic abuse situation, she called Safe Steps. And Safe Steps said, call the multicultural services. We can't help you. And she called the multicultural services. And they say, we're not specialists in domestic abuse. That's an intersectionality problem. When the organisations that are funded to support women in domestic violence situations don't think that they can support the 30-40% of women who fit under their little label of multicultural. And she ended up getting support from a church. She went there for their food pantry, and they said, we see you, human, and we will help you. And we will do, just like Irfan was talking about this morning, we will do our service to help you, and that's where she got her support. So it's real accountability that we have to hold our organisations to and keep asking those questions. That's what we mean, an example.
Yeah, and I think that's a great segue. Like, actually, if you can see the next slide, because this is actually what we're about. And I love these diagrams. It started off with just the first two, but I really love the addition of the third. So equality is what we started talking about, and we gave everybody the same thing. And that's not going to work because people aren't starting off from the same platform. So then we started talking about equity, which is understanding the platform someone's starting from. So we take from one place, we give to another, and we build a ramp for, and so we did different, we acknowledge the needs. But what I really love is the last one, which is justice. We just got rid of the fence. And that's you should be able to just ring anybody, whoever you are, and say, this is what I'm experiencing. And then it's the system's responsibility to work together. And unfortunately, I've been involved for the last 2 years in consultation with the Victorian government around exactly that and around lifting the multicultural services to a tier 1 specialist family violence states level and funded to do such because there's a need. And I'm not going to go into the details, but unfortunately they've just created another policy layer to exclude after 2 years. So more years to come, Hannah. I think we have a video that, and I want to, the video is Q&A last year, and I think the next time you click it should play it. So yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I mean, because Doray does give a beautiful answer, and he speaks for the next 3 minutes. But judging by your reaction, I think you noticed. So just a little bit about what you observed in that. No, that was Ruby. Sorry, that was Ruby Hamad, who some of you saw yesterday. And I had a very interesting coffee chat with her, and I told her I played this, and she was a bit self-conscious about it. Because of her experience actually being on that panel and how silent she was, and how she felt that if she said nothing, she was going to be attacked, and if she said too much, she's going to be attacked. And she was interrupted 8 times in that hour. Yeah.
Not only she, like both women were just shut down when they started in dialogue. it's just not gonna open there. And then a nice man to hear from, but still we're gonna hear from the man on the panel.
We're going to hear from the man on the panel about divisions of feminism.
Anyone else have anything that they?
No, it's just like a random passing line from one to like the two. When you see it as a visual, it's kind of quite
I think it was clever that I put paper to the study and there's evidence now that women were interrupted twice as often as men and men were asked to speak twice as often as women on the panel. And that's why I can't watch Q&As. That's progressive space of dialogue.
You might remember the Q&A episode. I don't know if anyone had the privilege of watching it with Mona. I've forgotten her last name, the author, terrible last name. She's an American Egyptian, and Hannah Safiri was on it, and an Aboriginal activist, and it's been taken off the airwaves. Yeah, it was an all-woman panel, and it was deemed too radical, and it was taken off the airwaves. It's taken off the internet. You can't find it anymore. It's been totally removed.
So one of the reasons we put that up there is, I guess, as a sense check to see if everyone saw it. And maybe you've been primed to see it. Because chances are you haven't seen it. Certainly, chances are I haven't noticed those things happening in the spaces I've been in. And just to be really transparent, this is something that Hala and I are working through as we start working together, because we each have different strengths that we bring. But I'm really, really conscious of the fact that being me means that I have different privileges and statuses in society. And I could easily be tempted to use those in my relationship with Hala in the moment, but not even consciously. It has been an absolutely remarkable experience. So I come from the corporate world, spent 10 years in one of the top tier law firms and then 5 years at an energy company. I have been in conversation with more women of colour in these 3 days than I have in my whole 15-year career. That's been like just mind-blowing for me. And speaking to some of the women of colour and talking about it's not just women of colour as well. I work as a tech lawyer in tech teams, and the same phenomenon with men of colour as well. You all know what it looks like, I don't need to tell you. But the ability to have these conversations and, for us to keep working through this, to do it openly is the skill that we all have to equip ourselves with, and it doesn't matter what we're going to say, our identities change all the time. And I think that is the most beautiful thing, that we have this ability to understand ourselves and then transform. But it means we have to be in constant dialogue with these processes so that we then don't end up doing that.
Thank you. I just want to share some real life stuff too. We can go through slides and have conversations, but sometimes I think I say things to people, but then what does it really mean, especially if we hear it a lot. So if you kind of go, oh, we're asking men to unpack their privilege, we're asking white people to unpack their privilege, all of those things. And I guess having such a close interaction with Hannah over the years, through a friendship and through various collegial circles, it's about when you were speaking, I was thinking, what does it mean to always do the work? Last year, after George Floyd's murder, I found myself after 2 weeks exhausted. I fell asleep at 1 p.m. on a Friday, and I woke up on Sunday night. And for the next week after that, I felt like I was walking through sludge, like mud. And I was in a complete state of trauma because the conversations I'd been having for 2 weeks brought up all the racism I'd experienced. I'd gone back to being a 9-year-old, hiding on top of the highest platform I could find on the playground to avoid being beaten up. And every single Anglo heritage friend I had was ringing me in those 2 weeks, saying, wanting to have a conversation, having an epiphany about racism. And Hannah was part of a circle of people that we were having WhatsApp conversations with. And after that 3 weeks, I actually said, I can't speak to any white people now. It's protective. I just don't want to speak
to any more white people. And I went on a rampage trying to find women of colour to talk to, and I found traumatized people. And we had amazing conversations, and for about a month, that's all I did. And it was therapy. And some of my white friends walked away from me, and some didn't. And that's what it means to do the work. So let's look back to it. I think we'll skip that because I want to get to, I want to get to the Australian identity. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. Yeah. Okay. So a bit about how we got here. So this is a beautiful quote from Bell Hooks. I learned through Hannah that Bell Hooks does not capitalize her name, and that people have a strong reaction to that. And then the B in the Institute of Nonviolence either, so there's synergy there. I'll give you, have a read about what she wrote around what patriarchy is. It's sort of absorbing, this is the system that we live with. And I think you can insert white supremacy there as well. And apply it to the false idea about race we've been taught. So we are in a patriarchal system, and we are in a colonial settler state, nation state. And we have an Australian, we've formulated a national Australian identity. So if we go to the next slide. And just in case, can everyone see those words? Yeah. So this is how we describe ourselves. Feel free to say, oh, there's a word missing, if you feel like there's a word missing.
Barbecue.
Barbecue. Our national identity. So that you have to say that. Who do you imagine when you hear, who are you picturing in your head saying those words?
Alan Jones.
Choice.
Fine,
But it's a bit more slow.
I do get John Howard in my head.
I reckon agriculture, I think physical farming kind of vibe.
Yeah.
This is not the one word, but she'll be right.
Yeah.
Just glosses over.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It's very like, where are the women in that? Where are the women of colour? Where are the people of colour? Where are the Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islander? First and I prefer to say First Nations, but where are people with disability? So this is our stated national identity. And we're going to go through, I'm going to do this and then you can take us through the actual forming our identity. But I'm going to go really fast through some slides. So I'm going to just stand to the side so I'm not twisting. So this is Australia on a global scale at the moment. We're regressing on every scale of gender measures. We talked about this morning, so I'm going to go through some stats that we keep seeing. So we're still at a 14% gender gap. We're still doing most of the housework. We're still unpaid. 35% of Australians in 2018 said they witnessed workplace sexual harassment. We know these things are underreported, so that's probably a highly understated figure. And 19% of the Australian population in 2018 reported having experienced racist or xenophobic discrimination in that year. And again, I would say that's probably very underreported, because when we look at surveys and statistics, we think who asked? Who did they ask? How did they ask it? And how safe was it to answer, honestly? Next slide, please. A little bit more about family violence experiences for women. So my head just starts going 1 in 3, 1 in 4, 1 in 5. Like this just is kind of like almost like a horse race. Again, they're underreported. So both for men who experience victimization and women who experience victimization. But when we think about that's underreported, so we're talking at least 1 in 2 then. I don't know what the figure is, but I remember being about 22 years old and hearing something about the experience of harassment, thinking, is it even possible to be born to grow up as a girl and then a woman in this world and not ever experience some form of sexual harassment. I really thought it would be 100% of women have. Can we just go to all four? So because feel free to connect with me, and if you'd like more information about the gender drivers, but this gender is absolutely a driver of family violence because of these constructed norms globally, the norms we've constructed around this. And that includes our attitudes around what was she wearing, why was she drunk, this is women who've been raped or murdered or both. Why was she there? Was she smiling too much? Was she too invitational? And we don't ask those questions. And isn't my favourite question, why don't we ask, why was he there? And why didn't he call the hotline that said to say to somebody, I'm feeling homicidal, or I'm feeling like I'm going to rape somebody, can you help me? Why doesn't that hotline exist? Why do we still say locker room talk and boys will be boys and all of those things, and you know, talking about men babysitting their kids, and you know, sort of the amount of trophies and congratulations we have to give throughout the day when men take on tasks that are allocated to women, and women just sort of take on men's tasks because we want to be paid for the labour we do, and then we still get underpaid. Okay, so that's a brief summary. Now, I just want to, before I move on, because we do have an activity where we would like you to sort of engage in reshaping the national identity based on those bubbles we saw, and we are at midday. So there's a couple of options. We stop right now. We skip right ahead and do that. We stay back a little bit to watch this video, which is taken from Misrepresented. The other option is you can go and watch Misrepresented on ABC. But this is women's experience of sexual harassment in the federal government of Australia. It's 10 minutes. Yep. So
there are two settings for lunch. So there's you can just wait, you can go over time and then go to the second.
Okay. Are you happy to stay a bit longer? So we can watch the video, have a quick chat, then reshape this Australian identity, and then we might have a better appetite. Okay. Let's see. Thank you. I hope it plays. Yeah. It's probably going to Press next because it'll keep playing. Yeah. She doesn't want to stop talking anymore. It's not a introduction. Any reflections? It's well edited. It's all women again. Actually, the next few slides are exactly on that topic. If we just, so we are talking about gender, we are talking about statistics around women, and then when we actually isolate Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander women, we see even worse statistics, worse experiences of family violence. And it's not because, and I just want to say, a lot of the times we hear the stats about Aboriginal women being more likely to experience family violence. What we don't hear is that the perpetrators are often not Aboriginal men. So the media actually even misreports those experiences. And when we hear about Aboriginal women being more likely to be hospitalised, it's particularly if they are in a remote community, and it's because we don't offer health services to those communities. So by the time they get to a hospital, the violence has reached a severe level requiring hospitalisation, whereas if you're in a rural, urban area, you're far more likely to get the help straight away. So again, it's underservicing. So when we think about intersectionality, it's how is the system disadvantaging people rather than somebody's experience is worse because somehow they're worse. That's actually what we're saying if we don't give the full picture.
Just say something about that, Hala? Yeah. We were just talking about it before that an Aboriginal organisation working with women and children who are experiencing violence, their KPIs from DHHS were set up such that there was no time for trust relationships to be built, and that takes a really long time with communities. So DHHS as a major funding body wasn't recognising that, and women and children were being put further at risk. So just another one of those.
Yeah, there's the exclusion of very prominent female figures from the family violence, the legal FLILSVP. What does that stand for? At the federal level, sorry?
Family violence on conventions.
Yes, and the active exclusion of people like Antoinette Braybrook from those spaces where that's a strong body for speaking up for Aboriginal women, and then they've just excluded the women that do speak up. So, over to you.
Well, what I was just going to add to this, because to honour the work that the team have done here, Newkind Conference is about bringing our different ways of thinking into this problem. And I know quite a few people are here from the environmental sector and from groups who think about systems change. So one of the invitations we've got here is things like that, which are really great examples, the way a KPI is constructed, the way data is collected and analysed, and then the way we learn. So Hala was talking previously about linear thinking, and it is one of our big dangers in society, that, you know, very conscious today, we're talking about gender in a particular way, and it's a very binary way, and that isn't the only way to think about things. So one of the things that we can all do for each other, and perhaps draw on people who are working in environmental systems change, for example, is start to see the world differently. And if any of you know of Sand Talk by Tyson Yunkaporta, that's a really great book to read to just kind of blow your mind and make you think completely differently. And I think if he was here, actually, I did say I don't stand by anything I've written in the book and stop holding me and thinking that you want me to do and try and make us pick the frameworks. But one of the frameworks that I found helpful in there is he talks about a cultural way of thinking about generations. And he talks about there being 3 generations. So there's a child, there's a mother, and then there's grandmother. And then the great-grandmother is seen as the child. It's this circular generational framework. And so he challenges us to say, if we are, in every system, we are a grandmother, a daughter, a mother, how are we relating to our world through that lens? So when we come to these conversations, how are we thinking about how it will relate to the people who are in the older generation, but the generation to come, and our position in that? So that's, if you start taking on those system thinking perspectives, and if you read his book, he just has the most beautiful analogies for using the natural world and understanding the systems in the natural world so that we don't get caught in the patriarchal linear thinking model that forces things like a KPI discussion and prioritises that above everything else. That's my little rant. So now I think,
yeah, if we go to the next slide, please. And can we make you work a little bit more, Natalia? There's two ways to do this. We can just voice it out, but if you came out of presenter mode, you could type in the bubbles what people are saying, but if that's too much to do, you don't have to do it. I think it's not if we want to represent those things or not. But if you were, so we heard about our national identity. I mean, we saw how we represent this. So if you were to insert yourself into the Australian national identity, maybe we just get one word from everybody in the room. And we'll go this way, this side. Never sit on the edge.
Just one word.
Yeah, if you were to be represented by the national identity, what word would include you?
I'd like to say something about kind of listening, like slowness and listening. Yeah, it's not going to work.
No, that's okay. That's all right. We'll remember it. Thank you. Listening. Oh, okay.
Equal.
Cheap, you're going to use a phrase, but reflecting not a bogan. A bogan, that's what I, yeah.
Not a bogan, yeah.
Boganless.
Bogan, unbogan. There you go.
Soft and cuddly. It's like a marsupial. Soft on the outside, but hard. Resilient and adaptable.
I've got too many thoughts. I'm going to hold back.
Sure. Yeah.
Contracts. Intentional. Brown. Satisfied.
Yeah. Sorry?
More compassion.
Compassion.
Neurodivergent.
Wild, like grounded woman. Empathetic.
Hang on a second. Wild-grounded woman, empathetic. Or process. Yeah, true, Sally.
I actually just come to Australia, like I haven't been here that long, so this has been a really fascinating conversation and insight into Australia. I think the word that sticks with me is probably migrant, because I feel like so many of us are migrants.
As a peer, I sit with Jan and we lost dinner.
Creativity. I love how spacious in.
Spacious, yeah.
For everyone.
Yeah. Not in Melbourne.
Warm brackets.
Brave.
Brave, yeah. Do you have one?
Gosh, I love so many of those.
What about you? I have a few, but I'm going to go with, someone who inspires me a lot every time I hear him speak. And you were there, Cameron, one of those occasions. Alan Thorpe from Dadi Munro. Dadi Munro means strong spirit. Yeah, strong spirit. Wholehearted. Yeah. So can you imagine what it would look like if that was the country we lived in, and that's how we portrayed ourselves, that's how we identified ourselves to each other and globally. Would you all be okay? I'm going to try to start something, maybe on our website or somehow. Would you all be okay if I did that and just sort of, and I'll probably keep asking more audiences throughout, but maybe like actually publicising so we can change the narrative. Yeah, okay. Thank you for being the first contributors to our new national identity. Thank you for joining our workshop. We're going to leave it there. Thank you for your participation, and I hope you have a really good lunchtime conversation and awesome foods. And Hannah, thank you so much for sharing the space. Yeah.